The search committee proposes a motion to the Board of Selectmen regarding the next step in the search for a new police chief.
Plus, a new class schedule for high school students is designed to fill learning gaps.
Also coming up, highlights of local town meetings. From Planning Board to Board of Public Works to the Charter Commission, we have it all.
And later, our weekly segment, Library Learning, find out what events are coming your way.
Those stories and much more ahead on ELCAT News Update. Good evening, I'm Rebecca Green.
And I'm Courtney Ingalls.
We begin tonight with an update on the police chief's position. Back in January, the Board of Selectmen chose 5 residents to serve on a police chief search committee. Their job was to bring back 3 finalists to be interviewed by the Board of Selectmen. The 3 finalists, East Longmeadow Police Sergeant Jeffrey DeLessio, former West Springfield Police Captain Daniel O'Brien, and Hamden Police Chief Jeffrey Farnsworth. Before the February 29th interviews were conducted, an email was sent by Farnsworth, who withdrew his position as a finalist. On March 9th, Daniel O'Brien also opted out. With 2 final candidates dropping out, the search committee was unable to complete their duty of delivering 3 finalists. The search committee met on March 9th to determine its role and recommendations for the Board of Selectmen moving forward. Search committee member Connie Wisbecki proposed a motion to suspend the search for a new police chief and extend Mellis's contract until the committee can finalize a thorough search process.
In light of certain facts that have been revealed, I recommend that the town suspend the search for a new chief of police and continue to extend Chief Mellis's contract as per state law. This will allow time for a proper police chief search with thorough interviews and background checks. It will also be in the best financial interest of the town, as we will not have to pay for both the new chief and the contractual obligation of the town to the soon-to-be former chief.
The search committee also allowed audience members to ask questions and address concerns.
Were the resumes what you were supposed to work with, or was it the resumes plus all kinds of other things that might have influenced you in the process?
Resumes.
The
Resumes, cover letters,
discussing those points.
in the discussion.
So again, I truly applaud what you did, but I have a really hard time understanding how the existing chief of police, commanding officer of a very safe town, except for accusations that might have been picked up by errant people around town blaming our current chief for issues. I have a hard time that his resume would have depicted that he's been accused of these things that make him not a real good candidate. So objectively, if we're looking at the resumes, I'll just finish my statement there. If we're looking at the resumes, and based on the limited knowledge I have of the non-public resumes, Jeff's an awesome guy, Chief's an awesome guy, I know a few other people, but I can't comprehend, and I actually think about it pretty regular since this process has gone the way it is. How could the existing chief not have all of the things that from those resumes?
If I can speak to that for myself, I don't think anybody that we looked at was not qualified. I think, as far as I was concerned, there were certain things certain candidates had that overqualified them against other people. I don't think there was one person that I read through that was not qualified for the job in any way, shape, or form. Every person sent something through that was qualified. Every person had an excellent background, excellent references. Every person had job experience. Every person had an excellent education. It was things that I think took certain candidates above and beyond. I don't think Chief Mellis was not qualified in any way, shape, or form. I don't think that's what anybody here is saying. I think there were just certain things that set other people forth in a different way, as far as my own opinion.
We're saying 5 people had more qualifications.
In my opinion,
than
yes.
our current chief of police.
Yeah.
Okay.
I looked at, as an administrator of a department, and I looked at the overtime allocation, and I did my homework. I talked to people that were on the appropriations committee and made sure that I had my facts about, why this amount of money was being spent. And I looked at it in the standpoint of, we're running a business, the town per se, and from a business perspective, the questions that I had to myself were, if this amount of money was being expended, and again, the figures are out there, so, whether it's 380,000 or 300,000 or being cut or proposed to be cut to 150, the bottom line was it was in excess of $300,000. And I look at all these kids that we are sending to school and coming out with college degrees, and parents in the position where my kid can't find a job, my kid can't find a job. You do the math, you're talking, even on the base of the patrolman's salary, $49,000, $50,000 a year, times how many to accrue that overtime. You could have zeroed out that overtime accounting, excluding emergency situations and gainfully employed people. I have a real problem with that number.
So that's
Well,
exactly.
and Chief, in all due respect, it's not an attack on you, because I can tell you, I vetted the question to another chief in another community, and when you do the numbers of employees proportionate to your numbers weren't that bad.
But is that based on my cover letter and my resume? The fact
That's
that
my
you go
point
into the
exactly.
Right.
So I think when and if you reconvene.
Yeah,
and you have
understood.
this again,
Yeah,
if the rules of engagement
right.
are to review the resumes and put forward the candidate, then unless you're gonna check everybody's overtime budget of the other
Right.
15 candidates,
Which,
and unless
yeah.
you're gonna check everything else that
Understood.
you bring into the formula,
Mhm.
I think it's a flawed formula. I think
Well-
you need to stick to the resume and the cover
Right.
sheet, or you need to do the same thing you're doing
Mhm.
of Chief Mellis for
Right.
all 15 candidates and
Well-
find out what their ability to run a business
Sure.
and be judicially
But, and
responsible.
John,
That was my point.
thing that I have a concern with, and I think many other people here that turned out, before this process began, one or maybe two of those selectmen had a personal vendetta against Chief Millis.
That's right.
They wanted to get him out of that position. Now, I don't know how you feel about doing that. If you
Well,
believe that,
I
how
understand
do
your
you
point.
feel doing this, knowing that there's an agenda there?
You have two sides here. You have maybe agenda, and then you have a duty to put together the proposal, which we had many, many hours on, for the town, for the good of the town, and that's what we've got to look at.
Yeah, you.
Not a personality. So what is inferred that there were problems, that should not, and it did not have any decision on what we move forward.
I don't
I
think
can't
your
do-
integrity was
No,
no,
that's
your
what I
said. Okay.
integrity in question.
I mean, I was frustrated to some degree, I will tell you that. And I thought and considered, what, maybe I should walk off this table. But I felt that was a position of weakness, and I'm being candid with you. I had that discussion at my house, and my wife said, I'm frustrated because, if I was hiring somebody for a Dairy Queen, I would interview them. We're talking about the hierarchy of the police department and the highest integrity position in the town. And we're not gonna, committee members are not gonna talk to the candidates? I mean, I just, in looking back on it now in retrospect, I felt that, I'm gonna stand tall and do the right thing here.
The committee's proposal was applauded by audience members. The Board of Selectmen still need to approve the proposal. You can watch the entire meeting on our YouTube page, ELCAT 01028. Stay tuned for next week's show as we continue to update you on the story.
Switching gears to another meeting, the high school administration presented a new class schedule that will improve students' learning at the latest school committee meeting. High school principal Gina Flanagan gives a brief history about the research conducted by the scheduling committee.
This process has been essentially a 3-year process from start to finish. We've had lots of informal discussions with students and staff and our parents, but we've also done some homework. A couple years ago, we also outreached to various schools throughout the state to learn about what they're doing with scheduling. Earlier this year, Mr. Marhefka and Mr. Martin, our guidance counselor, went to an MSSA workshop on scheduling, and we were able to share our schedule with other schools from across the state, and they gave us some information. So we've been doing a lot of back and forth in terms of research.
The new proposed schedule will fill learning gaps. For example, English is currently a semester-long course. The new schedule will offer English as a full-year course. This will allow students to engage basic writing skills throughout the entire year. Elective courses such as health and gym would remain to be semester-based. The presentation provided school committee members a sample of what a high school student's schedule would consist of.
Up here you see a traditional freshman schedule where they're taking their English, they're taking an Algebra 1 course, they're taking a biology course in Spanish. Those are all the full year classes, so you can see how the first block of the day and the third block of the day would be split. Okay, so those courses will run from September through June. You would meet 3 out every 4 days. 2 of them would be 41-minute classes, and the fourth one would be, or the additional day would be the 84-minute block. And again, that class runs from September through June. So you gain 45 teaching days, and you're eliminating that gap between the classes.
The high school administration shares the steps necessary to officially implement the plan.
So our next steps is really, we're still working on securing funding for the new books. We've actually started to purchase new books for math for this year. We are going to work with our Redeker software program in April to plug in the course selections and the template to see if that works as well. We're going to continue to message out our new schedule to our students and our parents. The idea of my student writing and taking math every day is really exciting. Not just from a learning perspective, but for the MCAS situation. We see we want to get better with that, and we just feel like that exposure to those key contents every day is really going to have a great benefit to our kids.
The latest planning board meeting also discussed student learning. High school technology engineering teacher Mark Green is in the process of developing a new course for high school students called Community Action Project Learning. The course uses a problem to provide the incentive to learn the necessary skills, methods, and information to formulate possible solutions. Green asked the planning board if they have any projects on their wish list to use for the new course.
So I just really wanted to reach out to the boards, and ask if you had ideas of projects that we could work on, and things that would be a small group setting, 2, 3, or 4 students. We're envisioning for probably in the fall, run for the first time in the fall, and it would be projects that as I mentioned before, that perhaps you would like to get to but really haven't been able to. And we're really still figuring out what we're going to do, and defining the whole notion of the course. But I'll give you an example. One of the examples that we learned about is a school that had a small parking area for students, and it was always full. So the students took that on as a challenge to try to find a solution. And so they looked at different options, public transportation, encouraging students to ride their bicycles, to get kids to walk, to do anyway, what they came up with for a solution was to create an online place where students could carpool, get together and carpool, and so that was an example there.
Try and do as a board is come up with some thoughts and suggestions, and we'll funnel them through Robin, if that's okay, to turn around and send you some, and we'll try and get you a nice little list going.
That'd be terrific.
Good news for drivers. The intersection at Elm Street and Maple Shade Ave is finally back to normal. Late last month, a tree fell over into that intersection, damaging power lines and traffic lights. DPW Director Robert Parent gave an update on the site at the latest Board of Public Works meeting.
You may have seen that today, Daigle Electric, who was the company that did the original installation about a year and a half ago, is out there installing new wiring and starting to be putting together reassembled signal heads. And they basically took the salvaged equipment and moved pieces and parts around as necessary. Plus they used some of the equipment that we salvaged from those signals when they were upgraded to build essentially a signal that'll be same in function to what we had there. The only thing we won't have, as you may or may not have recalled, as you were driving eastbound on Maple Shade Avenue, if you looked at the traffic signal, you actually had 3 signals that you could see. There was the original signal that was on a signal post, and then there were 2 overhead signals. In order to avoid having to buy 2 signal heads to replace the 1.5 or 2 heads that were completely destroyed when they're hit by the tree, we were able to repurpose some of the equipment, but that means that we will have to give up one of the signal heads that you would have seen coming from the west. There'll still be, the standard is to have at least 2 places where you can see the light. You'll see it on the original pole-mounted signal, and you'll see it with 1 overhead signal. You won't see it with 2 overhead signals as it was before.
Heritage Park was another item mentioned at that meeting. The board had to assign 1 member to work hand in hand with the Recreation Commission on the enhancements for Heritage Park.
We have been working as part of a group to come up with a number of different concepts for what might be done at Heritage Park. If you take a look at what opportunities exist within Heritage Park, Rec Department has been involved, the Rec Commission has had one member involved, the school department's been there, the school board has had one member involved. as the concepts start to get a little bit more concrete, the thought has been to get a member of each board involved in some type of an ad hoc committee that, you know, would give more weight to any recommendations that might come out of this planning effort. So we don't have any meetings set up at this point, but Rec had reached out and said, let's get together as a group. I said, well, let me take it to the board first and find out which member would be best suited.
Speaking of enhancements, the DPW plans to visit Mountain View and Meadowbrook schools to upgrade lighting and more.
We also are working on Meadowbrook School, all the interior and exterior lighting to upgrade those facilities with LEDs, and also Mountain View schools. Those are a couple of the only schools we haven't done anything as far as interior lighting or upgrades to. As far as playscapes over at Meadowbrook and Mountain View, I'm working on those bid specs now, and hopefully I will have those ready to go out to bid maybe mid next week after they're reviewing everything by the school department. So that project probably won't take place as far as all the procurement and everything else that goes along with it. The installation probably will not happen until school's out.
Lastly, an update on town hall renovations.
Things are going well. We are currently installing the tile in the bathrooms, men's room. All the tiling should be complete hopefully by Thursday. Floor tile was completed last week. We're hopeful to be completed with the phase 1 portion of it, the bathrooms, by the end of next week. We did start the phase 2 portion. I actually brought in another part of the building maintenance division to start constructing the wall in the sports staff office over in the selectman's office. So that's being done as we speak now. We're going to be sheetrocking in there tomorrow, and we're cordoning off some doors into the server room. So we're moving forward with that project, and subsequently after these 2 portions of the project, we are going to be moving the assessors into the meeting room for probably about a month while we do some wall removal and restructuring of those offices.
The latest Charter Commission meeting addressed educational programs for the public.
We had voted to fund them, and Ralph went and has done his due diligence at Co-op Printing. What we do need to visit is when these goes out, or revisit. We had thought we would send them out much closer to the election. I forwarded everyone an email from a concerned citizen who felt that perhaps this should be a precursor to the actual charter being mailed out.
After reading the email, talking to a lot of citizens that have not read the entire charter, they were hoping that something simple and easy with highlights would be showing up, and that's why I approached you and said I think we should move that up.
I was thinking myself, after discussions with a lot of folks, is that potentially, and I don't know if we've addressed this in the flyer, but maybe we do something similar to what's on the ballot, in the form of here's the question and here's the ballot summary, so that people become familiar with it, that this is what you're going to be seeing on election day, and rather than them spend time in the voting booth looking at it and trying to get acquainted with it, they already understand what it's going to look like, and they can vote and make an informed decision about it.
The April 12th local town election will determine whether the charter will pass to change our town government.
Now it's time for our weekly segment, Library Learning, where we give you a recap on what's been happening at the East Long Meadow Public Library.
And let you know what events are coming up next.
First, let's take a look at the first ever indoor mini golf fundraiser. The Friends of the Library hosted a whole lot of fun. The fundraiser included 10 different fun-themed holes, raffle prizes, and more. All proceeds went towards the Friends of the Library.
Moving on to upcoming events, a movie matinee is right around the corner. The library will be showing a heartfelt drama, Miss You Already, a story about a long-lasting friendship. The event takes place on Saturday, March 19th at 1 p.m. in the library community room.
Also coming up at the library, a special event that brings you closer to the community. Get the chance to meet local authors. The library will host 6 local authors to discuss their work and writing process. The books will be available to buy along with light refreshments. This event is open to all ages and will take place on March 21st at 6 p.m. in the library community room.
We'll end tonight with 2 public service announcements. First up, this one's for all pet owners. There will be a rabies clinic coming up that will include rabies vaccinations for dogs and cats and a table available for dog licenses. The clinic takes place on Saturday, March 19th at 10 a.m. at the A.W. Brown Pet and Garden Center located on Shaker Road. For fees and other costs, go to the town's website for more information at eastlongmeadowma.gov.
And a reminder that Tuesday, March 15th is the town preliminary election. Voting for positions on the town's elected boards will take place at Birchland Park Middle School from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. Well, that will do it for us tonight on this edition of ELCAT News Update. Be sure to watch meetings on demand at our ELCAT YouTube channel, ELCAT 01028.
Follow us on Facebook and watch us on cable channel 191. I'm Rebecca Green.
And I'm Courtney Ingalls. Until next time, good night.